with the book on a much broader perspective. As you all know, that last school year, the 2012-2013 school year, the DRC began delivering conflict resolution services at Ypsilanti High School as a part of the Safe and Supportive Schools initiative. Ypsilanti High School was selected among several schools, quite a few schools in the state of Michigan, to receive support through our State Department of Education to provide innovative, unique services that gave academic support, parent involvement, and also conflict resolution. So we felt very fortunate that we were able to go to Ypsi High and deliver our services. In that service, we delivered peer mediation, so we trained students to be mediators, and we worked with them and gave coordination and supervision to them as they mediated with their peers. We also introduced the concept of restorative practices. Specifically, we conducted circles, circles that addressed groups of people who were having a situation, if you will. And we also did restorative conferences, which is a little bit different, where there is a clearly identified victim and a clearly identified offender. And both those students were willing to address the issue. So if you're familiar with victim-offender mediation, that is sort of to be a remake of that concept. So I thought that today's topic for the brown bag was very fitting to give you the outcome of last school year's program, and to also let you know that we were invited back this school year. And actually I didn't expect her today. Michelle is our school liaison. She works with Ypsilanti High School, and Keely Koleski is our DRC staff person who are there. We're back there this year doing the same services. So I thought, again, that I wanted to keep you in the loop and give you information about the program. So this is a PowerPoint. I'm not sure if I can PowerPoint and mic at the same time, but I'll try. And I'll just roll right through this pretty quickly. So again, this was the school year 2012-2013. So for those of you who read the book, The New Jim Crow, those of you who are familiar with the School to Prison Pipeline report that Mark will speak about, I think this presentation will make very good sense to you. You'll understand why there's such a commitment and passion behind it. Thank you. So, as I said, we introduced the peer mediation program to the school along with others, and the next few slides are about the peer mediation program. Before I go any further, let me just give you a timeline. We began services last school year about mid-November through the end of May. And when you think about a school's calendar, there are weeks off for holidays, holiday break, spring break, winter break. So when you look at all of the weeks, we were there probably equivalent to 5 months of time for the school year. So in that time, we actually had 20 cases referred to the peer mediation program, of which 12 were mediated. There were 22 unduplicated students in the program, and there was an 83% settlement rate. So what that means is that some of the kids who came to peer mediation had not been to the mediation before. But that 83% settlement rate is very telling. I understand this was a small sample size of cases for peer mediation, but it's very hopeful to us that when kids are given the tools in a format for problem solving, they can actually engage in it. And 60 days of suspension was averted. So to Tom's point about the use of suspension and expulsion for kids in school, there is a dependence on those suspension and expulsion to deal with student behavior. What we saw with the peer mediation program is that these were some interpersonal conflicts between kids, a lot of girlfriend-boyfriend stuff, and he said, she said, some very typical things. But to think that the principal at that time would have suspended those kids for what we might view as just typical teenage behavior is very troubling to us. So the fact that we were able to intervene with this particular service, this technique, and save those days was just encouraging to the DRC. We also did follow up, and we know that 11 of the 12 agreements were upheld. The kids actually did what they said they were going to do. And again, the mediators were their peers. They were 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders who were trained to be mediators, just like all of us went through the training. You went too fast. So this is just a grade breakdown. What we saw, and this is very typical in, I think the School to Prison Pipeline report may have hit on this, or some research I read hit on this. 9th graders have a very difficult time transitioning into the high school. It has, they're 14 years old, they're leaving middle school, there's an expectation of independence and judgment that they may developmentally may not be there yet. So it wasn't surprising to us to see that half of our cases involved 9th graders. 10th graders was another significant amount. The 12th graders, and this is what, and they're not on this chart of breakdowns because many of the 12th graders felt that, hey, I'm out of here, I got that, I'm more mature. We heard that a lot of the 12th graders. So we did not see them reflected in that program. Demographically, this again touches on the school to prison pipeline as well as the new Jim Crow. 80% of the students that received services in the peer mediation program were African Americans. Again, kids who had been identified as being troublemakers and really were on their way out of the door, but for our ability to intervene. 60% of them were female. The kinds of things that came out of peer mediation, it probably will not surprise you. The teasing, the personal relationship stuff, the girlfriend, boyfriend, and rumors. So kids get highly offended if somebody says something about them that may or may not be true. So that social ability, those social interactions are really big issues among the school students. Fighting was another large percentage of that, and then you have some other things. The concept of being disrespected, whatever that is, and it differs from person to person. But it was something that was inflaming enough to result in behaviors that threatened suspension. And again, we have the written agreements at the end of the school year for us. The restorative circles, a different method of intervention. These are situations where there would be students who are having a problem, more than two. They're having a situation. It could, it varies in terms of what the dispute type was like, but we decided that it was conducive to a circle, getting everybody to sit down together and with a facilitated dialogue, getting to the root of the problem. Also, what I think is very unique about the restorative approach to conflict is that the students get to talk about what happened from their perspective. They get to talk about what they were thinking about, what was going on with them at that time, and then they can talk about the impact of their behavior. So this is a tool or a technique that really taps into a person's empathy about what they've done. Last school year, we had 11 cases referred, and we had circles for all of them. 25 unduplicated students. Now, some of these circles have 3, 4 kids. Some of them may have 6, 7, 8 kids. It just really differed from group to group. 100% of the cases were resolved. They get to talk it out in such a unique way that they can really see the error in their own way. They start thinking about, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when that was going on. I really didn't mean it to come out that way. So they really worked hard and thought deeply about how they can make amends. Again, we averted days of suspension. 50 days of suspension were averted just through that process alone. And I should say that these circles took not more than an hour of time. So in an hour's time, we saved 50 suspension. The circles are facilitated by an adult, so the adult, there are some adult facilitators in here. Claudia is one, Joe is one, Huda is another. So Janet has come over to school, Phyllis, I think Phyllis? Not yet, okay. So there's some of us in the room who have been trained specifically to do these circles. We address the conflict affecting a group of students or in a class. So there are times, especially this school year, Keely is developing or documenting her data that we're actually going into classrooms and working as well. It is used for positive community building. So that group of kids that come together and talk about their issue really leave out feeling repaired, they feel whole, and they become their own small community, and then they affect the larger community. They have a voice in what's happening. So these are not adults saying that you did something wrong, you broke the school rule, you're out of here, call your parent, and that's really how it goes. You broke the school rule, calling your parents, you're out of here. So there may not be opportunity, and in more cases than not, there is no opportunity for the student to say, this is what was going on from my perspective. And they are allowed to participate in problem solving. So again, we see 9th graders occupy this service quite a bit, and 10th graders. That is really no surprise when you think about where kids are developmentally, where they are in their judgment and decision-making capabilities. Again, ethnicity, mostly African American, and in this case, again, mostly girls. The conflict situations are not too much different from the peer mediations, except that it involved a larger group of people. So not just one-on-one interpersonal conflicts, there were several people involved in the dispute. 100% agreements reached. And then we move on to conferences. So what's unique about the conferences is that these are offenses that really raise high on the egregious level. These are situations where we know that this kid, there will be significant harm caused to another student, or there was some significant harm caused to another student. We found our way to really do this effectively with the circles for kids who were returning from suspension. And we're doing that much more now this school year. But we found there was a real jewel in this process when kids who have already been suspended, that they can return to school through this process where they can make amends. It took us a while, but we were able to convince the administration that just because you suspend the student doesn't mean you've resolved the problem. They come back, so oftentimes more angry and more vengeful. They really want to get back, save face, and finish what they feel that had been started. So we were able to do a few of those cases, only 5, but I think the impact was significant. 5 cases were referred and 3 actually went to the conferences. Again, settlement rate is high, but 38 days were suspension was averted. What was happening is that kids were suspended for 10 days or more. And they would agree, the families would agree to this process, and that suspension might be reduced to 3 to 5 days because they would come back and re-enter through this process. Okay. So there's significant misbehavior. There's a clearly identified victim or an offender, and know that we do intake with these cases, with all of the cases, but we were very clear to make sure that the victim was ready for such a process. We weren't going to put the victim in a circle where they would feel re-victimized. So there's some intense intake and conversation with the person who was the victim. The offender has some intense intake and conversation to make sure that they're ready to take responsibility for their behavior. They are fine with being accountable for their behavior. They are ready to face the music, if you will, and repair the harm that they caused. It's facilitated by a staff person, a trained staff person, either the DRC staff, and we're working with our volunteers who have this background. And we gathered the community together to support the victim and offender. So what that means is that other people will be a part of these circles. The parents of the children might be there, administrative people might be there, teachers who can be supportive might be there. They may have a friend who is understanding and supportive who can participate in the circle as well. So it's not just the victim and the offender. There are some people from the community who are there to support them in this very, very difficult conversation. And they have to determine how to repair the harm. Of course, making amends with the person that they victimized, but they may talk on and on about some other things that they can do. Again, the grade breakdown, 9th and 10th graders, and we had some 11th graders involved with this as well, and even 12th. So when you think about those really bad fights where people are really hurt, there's a little bloodshed, it is really escalated, these are the kinds of situations that we were dealing with. African Americans seem scored high here as well, and there was an even breakdown between the gender. Conflict, intimidation, and fighting. So kids fight, they are kicked out, but we use this method to reintegrate them back into the school community. The settlement rates, again, was very high. At the end of the school year, we surveyed the students who participated to find out how they felt about us being there. Was it useful to them? Did they like it? Should we leave? How did they feel? We very openly and honestly, we talked to them. And as you can see here, that the surveys were handed out, a large percentage of them completed them, and the numbers are very high. They felt that it was useful. They learned something. They learned to better manage their conflict, which is my motivating factor personally, and that they would use the service again, and they wanted the program to continue the next school year, which is the current school year. General information about it, we did have, again, some adults to participate in this. We had teachers to participate, administrators. There were a couple administrators at the school that they participated in most of the things, the restorative processes, and we were able to get some parents to participate as well. In total, 148 days of suspension was averted for a school population of less than 600. So I thought that was pretty good first, out the gate, first try with the school. So that's the end of the PowerPoint. What isn't in this PowerPoint is what we're seeing now. Towards the end of the school year, kids would self-identify and go to the conflict resolution room. They would say, I have a problem, or a problem is brewing, help us work it out. Keely is at the school now, and I've been over at the school for days in a row, and the kids know that the room is there. They like having the service on site, and they're actually going to the room quite frequently to request the service or to talk openly about this is happening. Can we take care of it? The interesting thing is that many of the kids we work with, they don't want to be suspended, and they recognize that they messed up, that their temper got away from them. Something brewed in the neighborhood, they brought it to school, they know it's not right, so this is an opportunity for them to sit down and work it out, and it's a voluntary thing, so they have to want to work it out in order for them to participate. So again, I just wanted to share that with you all, to let you know how the school year ended, and let you know that we're back there this school year.
So ready to shift gears again?